The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, thinking they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
You know, I didn't think I'd live long enough to see a day where two of the hottest topics in sports are the debut of a rookie in the WNBA and the release of a schedule where the opponents and sites are already known. We just don't know the days and the time, and it's going to be rolled out tonight in an extravaganza on the NFL Network. And there's been some leaks, and there's a scheduled tracker of leaks on SI.com. I mean, it is just beyond belief. NBA last night, two teams left for dead, back off the mat. They're within a game of closing out series as things have shifted dramatically there. We've got a programming announcement coming up at 10 o'clock, and always on Wednesday we do Orioles preview. And let me give you my Orioles review from last night before we dive into the NBA. My wife and I were invited to go to the game last night against the Blue Jays and sit in a suite that her cousin has. And it was going to be a lot of fun to watch the game. And, you know, it's great to be in a suite. There's no question about that. And the weather, yeah, it was looking drizzly and iffy, but, you know, we were kind of tracking it all day and keeping an eye on whether or not there was going to be a postponement of the game. And, you know, from the way the weather looked and the fact that they hadn't done anything and they hadn't said, well, we're monitoring the weather, we're going to make a decision at such and such a time, we said, okay, we're going to go there. Well, you know, going to a game that starts at 6:30 in Baltimore when you live in Germantown, you're going to face rush hour traffic, which is what we did. And it took us about an hour and a half to get to Camden Yards. Now, that's not unreasonable for that time of day, and you understand that. And then you figure the game is going to end like 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30 at the latest, and there won't be any traffic going home. And one thing about Camden Yards, they get you in and out really quickly. You can go to a sellout game there and be on 95 in like 15 minutes. They're really good about that. So, you know, okay, traffic to deal with going to the game. Excuse me. And after the game, it should be okay. So we get there at 5:30, just in time to find out that the game has been postponed. Had we known an hour and a half earlier, or even an hour earlier, we were, monitoring the phone. I was driving, so my wife was looking at her phone. We could have turned around, maybe at like Columbia or something like that. But no. Everything was forward and moving ahead towards a first pitch at 6:35. And we find out at 5:35, oh, yeah, the game has been postponed. They're going to make it up with a doubleheader in July. So we had to go home, and going home at that time of day, we're facing Baltimore rush hour traffic, not necessarily the people leaving the stadium, though there looked like there were a couple of thousand, maybe more, who had arrived early enough to go to the game. Man, we got stuck in that going home. So it was a 3-hour tour is what it amounted to. It was a 3-hour tour. And look, the Orioles have a great stadium, and they got a really good team this year. And there's no reason why you wouldn't want to go to a game. But you got to treat your fan base better than that. People coming from across the street, yeah, no big deal. You just go home. But, the Orioles do draw from the Washington area. We didn't have a team here for 34 years. A lot of people became fans of the Orioles. You ought to be more considerate to the fan base. If you're going to postpone the game, do it in plenty of time. Don't do it an hour before the game. Enough ranting on that. Let's get to the NBA. You want to hear ranting? This is the Indiana Pacers coach, Rick Carlisle, whose team blew the Knicks off the floor on Sunday afternoon. I mean, it looked like the Knicks were totally out of gas. The Pacers were going to take it from here, and that was going to be it for a team that was tired and hurt. Well, guess what? Back on their home floor at the most famous arena in the world, Madison Square Garden, the Knicks returned the favor, winning by 30, 121-91. Rick Carlisle, coach of the Pacers.
Very poor effort, obviously. Lost every quarter. Got annihilated on loose balls and rebounds, gave up 20 offensive rebounds and 29 more shots. So we all own it, but very embarrassing. Very embarrassing and a hard lesson.
Yeah, they were done in by the Villanova guys. As Jalen Brunson, who some said, he's hurt, his foot's bothering him, won't be able to do much rest of the series. Nope. Brunson back in a big way. 18 of 35 from the field, 44 points. And his old buddy from Villanova, Josh Hart, had another terrific game. 18 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists. So the Knicks are back. Tom Thibodeau, who got a lot of criticism for playing these guys a lot of minutes. And, again, he had to do it last night because he's got so many guys who are hurt. But it's working. Brunson played 43. Hart played 39. Hartenstein played 31 minutes. DiVincenzo with 30 minutes on the floor in the starting lineup. He got a couple of contributions off the bench. But, the extended minutes not looking like a factor last night as they cruised to victory. And now he's one game away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I mean, they've shown it all year. That's who they are. We still need one more win. So we can't be too excited about it. We have to understand, what we need to do. Stay focused on the task at hand. You feel good about yourself, you get knocked down in this league. You got to be ready to go.
And it's back to Indiana with the possibility of a closeout. If they don't do it there, they can get it done in New York this weekend. Meantime, the Denver Nuggets, who Charles Barkley said would be swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves, are a game away from closing out the Timberwolves. They would have to do it on the road. But back at home last night, they look like themselves in a big way. And Nikola Jokic, who was criticized by Shaq for winning the MVP, he was certainly the MVP of last night's game. And I saw a tweet from Tim Legler who said, you can't play a third quarter much better than Nikola Jokic did. And his numbers are staggering. Played 41 minutes, 15 of 22 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3. He had 7 rebounds, 13 assists, and, 40 points in this game. And, again, some of those assists, spectacular passes. And this is a team that, you said defending champs. The Minnesota Timberwolves had the defensive answer for them, right? And the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, was going to chew him up, which he did in a couple of games. Not last night. Edwards, 5 of 15 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. He finished with 18 points. And Mike Malone, who had shown that video of Barkley and others counting his team out, smiling a little bit with this bounce-back effort as they take care of the Timberwolves last night, 112-97.
I felt to start the third quarter we weren't ready to play. And, we're up at halftime, playing pretty good basketball. And they go on an 11-3 run to start. And a quick timeout. Then I think from there we closed on a 23-8 run. So just reminding our guys who we are and how we need to play if we're going to try to protect our home court. And our guys did that. I mean, I think in that second quarter we had I think 3 possessions in a row where we took charges. Aaron Gordon took 2. So I thought for the most part, I know the percentages, 48 is not ideal, but 31 from 3 allowed, only 97 points. And we knew we had to do something different with Anthony Edwards. This guy is just a one-man wrecking crew. And I thought KCP, CB, Aaron did a great job, but we trapped him. We double-teamed him, flew around behind it, and that takes a lot of effort. And our guys committed to it. And I think that was a big part of the win tonight. 30 assists is a great number. Obviously 16-4 in transition, a great number. But, we're not satisfied. It's a great win in front of a great crowd, but we got to go up to Minnesota and try to close it out. It's always the toughest game.
Well, they've won a couple in Minnesota, so I think the series has shifted, and the defending champs are looking like the defending champs now. As Legler said going into the playoffs, he said he didn't think there was anybody that was going to beat the Denver Nuggets. And after 2 games, looked like he might have to eat his words. Now it looks like we're heading towards, things could change, But the way the Celtics are in control of their series against Cleveland, they can close it out tonight. I would think that we're looking at a Boston-Denver final. But we still got the Eastern and Western Conference finals left to go. The other big NBA story is the Bronny James story, and it may be tied to this appearance that LeBron and his wife made at the Cavaliers game on Monday. He plays for the Lakers. He just finished up a long season. What's he doing sitting courtside at a Cleveland Cavaliers game? Is he sending a message? Everybody wants to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Brian Windhorst, who's kind of made a career being the LeBron whisperer on our morning show on Sportsmanlike yesterday, on what was behind that. What was he doing sitting courtside with a bottle of wine underneath his seat, for whatever that meant, and what kind of message is he trying to deliver? This is Windhorst on Sportsmanlike yesterday.
I had several NBA executives send me back my own meme. What is going on in Cleveland is what they were going on. Because, I will say this, the first thing I thought of was this moment 10 years ago where LeBron showed up to a game in Cleveland while he was a player for the Miami Heat to honor Zydrunas Ilgauskas' jersey retirement, his longtime teammate. And he got in a private plane, flew from Chicago over to Cleveland on an off night. Pat Riley was not happy. Mm-hmm. And a few months later, he signed with the Cavs. And when I wrote my book about LeBron coming back to Cleveland and winning the championship, that was the lead chapter because that was sort of the beginning. So I'm thinking about that now 10 years on when LeBron shows up today, and I'm saying, what's he doing? Because he's extremely strategic. And I wish I could tell you I knew exactly what he's doing. I don't pretend to know, but he's got to be up to something. And so there's sort of four things that are in play right now. One, you've got the Lakers with an open coach. Honestly, I don't think LeBron is too involved in that coaching search. I don't think he's honestly cared that much about who his coach has ever been, just in fairness. Two, you've got the LeBron contract situation. But I really, really doubt that there's much negotiation there. The Lakers are really out of position. They're going to give him what he wants. If he wants a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal, I don't see them not giving that to him. So I don't see either of those being worth showing up. So we're left with the last two. Mm-hmm. One is Lakers trades going into the draft season. And remember that at the trade deadline, the Lakers did nothing, and LeBron was not happy. Mm-hmm. So the Lakers have 3 potential first-round picks to trade. I think LeBron would like to see them use those picks and trade. And then fourth is Bronny. Now, Rich Paul has gone on the record recently trying to separate the idea that LeBron and Bronny are linked, that they need to be together or whatever. So I will defer to that. But how can I ignore the Bronny situation? Also, Bronny had a good day yesterday at the draft combine. He was one of the best shooters at the draft, which was unexpected. He came in at 210 pounds, which is at least 10 or 12 pounds heavier than he played at USC, looking like he's really added a lot of muscle since that season ended. And he did come in at 6'1.5", which he was listed at 6'3" at USC. I don't think anybody believed he was 6'3". So the 6'1" thing is, he didn't come in at 5'7", but this, he's going to have to, prove a little bit. But I think Bronny had a really nice day, and now he gets to play in scrimmages starting tonight and stuff. So all that's going on. I wish I could tell you I knew what it was, but there's no way LeBron comes to a one-off Cavs game without a secondary motive. Sorry.
There's a lot to unpack there, Brian, with everything that you just outlined. But I want to go back to the Lakers side of all of this. You said that when he did this with Miami, Pat Riley was not happy. Do the Lakers have the leverage needed in this situation, or does LeBron have more of the power?
LeBron has always got the power. The one question I don't know, for the last 10 years, LeBron has prioritized always making the most money possible. He was irritated those couple of years in Miami that he took less than the max contract, even though with taxes, he probably ended up a little bit ahead. But he's always wanted the last dime. And the Lakers, obviously, they can give him $160 million over 3 years. And if it's prioritized for money like it's been for the last decade, not that it's been the most important thing, but he's never been willing to take a discount. Then it's going to be the Lakers. If that remains the thing. But I don't know if that's true. I don't know if at age 39 going on 40, worth $1 billion if it does matter. And that affects his market. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the teams don't know either. This hasn't been communicated. But we'll say this. LeBron knew exactly what he was doing at the podium when he walked off in Denver and said, I'm not going to answer that question about Lakers. He knew exactly what he was doing when he's done podcasts and put out tweets and Instagram posts since where he goes, I don't know what I'm doing. And then he shows up at this game. I'm not going to freak out. I don't think we need to break into SportsCenter, but it was a very interesting moment, and the league definitely took notice, which is probably what he was looking for.
And consider this. Cleveland Cavaliers have the number 20 pick overall, which might address number 4 on the Windhorse list, Bronny.
Is it possible? You're putting me into a corner. Like,
okay,
yes, it's possible. I'm not in a position where I'm able to see. It's a little hazy right now.
Right. So then that's the point. So then he's left this at least gray enough where we don't know.
But you could argue that taking Bronny 20th in a draft is not responsible because he's not a first-round pick, unless he's amazing at this draft combine. I mean, we're learning by the hour here. Like we're in the learning phase of this. Teams don't know Bronny. Guys, Bronny has never given a press conference in his life. Mm. He played at one of the highest profile schools that we've ever seen in high school. He played a year in the Pac-12, and he's never taken questions from reporters in his life.
Until last night. And what he did on the floor against other draft prospects, not so much. He was 2 for 8. He had 4 rebounds in 19 minutes. What Windhorse referenced from the night before, he looked great. 19 of 25 shots from 3 and had a 40-inch vertical. And his size, which may be an issue or maybe not, that was also involved here. Now, as far as talking last night, yes, for the first time, LeBron James Jr., or Bronny, held a news conference and said this about his critics.
There's nothing I can say, to be honest. Like, I just, I obviously see everything that has been thrown my way. But, I just got to shrug it off, and all the work that I've put in over this, I don't know how many years, I just feel like I need to believe in myself and everything. Like, they haven't seen what I've been through or anything like that. So, I just continue to believe in myself and keep putting in the work.
And as far as what he's telling GMs who are talking to him about the possibility of drafting him, what he wants them to know.
That I'm a genuine person. I've gotten a lot of lessons and stuff from my mom and my dad. But also just like putting that Bronny James narrative out there more is, instead of, just being LeBron James' son. I think that's really important for me.
Now, with that being said, does that motivate you a little bit? Because, there's, when your father said last year, I want to play with my son, then everyone's like, teams are going to draft him so his father could come. I mean, does that, basically, look, I'm more than just, a way to get my pop? Does that
for sure. That's one of the many motivation factors that I, go off of, including all the negativity and hate that I receive. That's for sure one of the.
Yeah, he's interested in being thought of as separate from his father. He says it's not his mindset that he definitely wants to play with his dad. He's thinking about more of his own career. He compares himself to Drew Holiday, Derek White, and the Kings' Davion Mitchell, okay? And I think this was a really interesting thing that he said. He said, Bronny is just a nickname I was given when I was younger, but everything that follows my dad, people just try to link me with that and all the greatness that he's achieved. I haven't done anything yet, so I feel like there needs to be that divide between Bronny and LeBron. Well, that's fine, but when your dad goes around telling people early in the season that you're good enough to play in the NBA and that his goal is to play with you, he's linking you. Fair or unfair, he's doing that. So it's inescapable that you're going to be linked with your dad, and there is that feeling that, they're tied together. And if your name wasn't Bronny James, I don't think there would be any chance he would be drafted off a year that he had at USC. And I understand there are extenuating circumstances, including the heart issue, which he nearly died. Understand that. But you come out after a year of averaging less than 5 points and 3 rebounds and 2 assists a game, you're not going to have people lining up to draft you. The fact your name is Bronny James and the possibility, like was speculated with Windhorst, that Cleveland maybe takes him at number 20. LeBron goes back to Cleveland, delivers a second championship, back to where he started his career, takes a bow and says, thank you, good night. And, here's Bronny, and he's going to carry on in the next generation. We'll see. So it's tough to have it both ways. I understand where a 19-year-old kid is coming from, but the linkage is due to what your dad said. Let's be honest here. This wasn't an unfair linkage between the two of you. This was something that was promoted by LeBron. All right, we will shift now to the Commanders and the brouhaha over the T-shirt that Dan Quinn wore over the weekend. He addressed that yesterday, along with a number of other things, as the first day of OTAs concluded. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
We have a programming announcement coming up at 10 o'clock. Orioles preview at 10:30, and Tony Kornheiser is on today at 11. Tony doing today and tomorrow. He'll be off on Friday. So we're waiting for the whole schedule to be rolled out tonight. So far, not anything on the Commanders other than a rumor I saw that they're going to go back to Dallas on Thanksgiving. But we do know now that they're not going to be playing overseas this year. More leaks this morning, or I guess, I don't even know if it's a leak. It's the NFL. They're dribbling out little drips and drabs of the schedule. So we now have the international games. One of them we already knew about. Be September 6th. That's a Friday night game. Packers and the Eagles in Brazil. And then the London games, these are the 9:30 in the morning games, and they'll be on the NFL Network. The Friday night game is going to be on Peacock, Packers and Eagles. But the Jets and the Vikings, October 6th. The Jaguars, they always play over in London, playing the Bears October 13th. The Patriots will play the Jaguars again. So they spend 2 weeks there. They spend 2 weeks in London, the 13th game and the 20th game. And then the Giants will play the Panthers on November the 10th. So no international games. We know that about the Commanders. And they're not going to open the season at Kansas City. We know that, right? Because we found out yesterday that the Chiefs are going to open up against the Ravens in that Thursday night game. We know the Sunday night game, that has been announced. That's Aaron Rodgers. No, that's the Monday night game. Excuse me. We don't know the Sunday night game. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets going to San Francisco for Monday night. So we have that. And we also have a Week 2 Sunday night matchup, which will have the Chiefs at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, no, that's not even a night game. That's a late window, so it's a 4:30 game. We'll know everything by tomorrow, and we'll do what we always do. It's an exercise in futility, because when you look back on who you pick to win and who you pick to lose at the end of the season, you always have to laugh. But I'll go through the whole schedule tomorrow and tell you who's going to win each week, as if you really need to know that. So anyway, we had over the weekend a T-shirt that launched 1,000 tweets. And it was the T-shirt that Dan Quinn wore when talking to the media on Saturday morning before their second day of workouts. And the T-shirt had the Commanders' name on it and the Commanders' logo, the W. And hanging from the left corner of the W was a pair of feathers. And the Twitter world freaked out. Oh, my God, they're going to go back to the name Redskins. No, they're not going back to the name Redskins. As my buddy Tom Lavero says, Quinn could have shown up with an Indian headdress, and they still wouldn't be going back to that name. But he points out that what was a lesson here that Quinn learned was that what the fan base has been through and how damaged they feel. He probably thought he knew, and as Lavero says, few who come from the outside do. And so this was Quinn yesterday, asked about the T-shirt, and I'll give you, he's usually expansive in his answers. The team initially had no comment on this. This is as far as anybody from the organization will go about that T-shirt.
Dan, over the weekend, you wore a T-shirt to your availability that garnered some attention. I wonder if you could walk through what that was.
Sure, no sweat at all. And I think one of the parts of me, taking this job, I was excited to bridge, the past and the present, and what a cool, privilege that is to do. And I also recognized there's a lot of layers to that. So it was a great lesson for me. And what I really hate is that any attention that would have been taken away from these rookies and like this awesome crew. So, no one wants to do that, but great lesson.
Any feedback with the shirt from, I heard a lot of former players really liked that you wore the shirt. Did you get any feedback from folks?
Nope.
See, nope. That's not a typical Dan Quinn answer. So that's about all he's going to say about that. I thought maybe somebody mailed him. It's an unlicensed shirt. The NFL doesn't like that because Nike pays them millions of dollars for the gear, for the exclusive, manufacturing of the gear. I thought maybe somebody sent it to him. He wasn't thinking. He just threw it on. No, there was a plan behind that, right? That's what I gleaned from the answer, that he thought he was helping to bridge the past with the present, and then saw the reaction and said it was a great lesson. So he's not going to do that again. They're not going to change the name of the team back to the Redskins. The only question is, what kind of nod will they have to the past? I think that's the way to put it. What kind of nod will they have? And there's things going on with a senator from Montana now asking that they recognize the designer of the helmet logo that they wore for over 30 years. There's that. But Quinn, I think, thought he was accomplishing something by doing that, and it turned out that it blew up in his face. And as Lavero points out, he probably didn't have a really good understanding about how damaged this fan base is and what everybody has been through in all of that. All right, back to what Quinn wants to deal with, and that's the on-the-field stuff. And was asked about the process of installing the offense, as yesterday he had his first offseason workouts with the rookies and the veterans working together.
Number one, big playbook, obviously, to put in, and then little bits of it as you're going. And so, did some at veteran camp, did some with the rookies, and so this is an extension of that. In addition to, I don't think it's ever too early, Ben, to start on some situations. Here's a 2-minute at the half. Here's all the ones that come up. So we'll do that as often as we can. By nature, the OTA is more of a passing camp, and that's where the emphasis will be. And then in training camp, there'll be some shifting on that. But I'm looking for efficiency, I'm looking for speed, and really just the detail that's going into the calls.
So it's a process. He's working with a rookie quarterback, so it can't be too complex. It's a whole new coaching staff. And also, don't downplay this, the roster turnover. 20 free agents, 9 draft picks, assuming most of them, if not all of them, are going to make the team. So it's going to be a much different roster than it was last year. So you have to factor that in. And, of course, the quarterback issue and the mixing of the veterans with this. He's not a kid, but he's never taken an NFL snap. And this was Quinn answering that question.
Number one, you can see how hard he worked to get the system down and in place. And so that was evident through the camp. And so I'm excited for everybody else to see that, to see the work ethic that goes into something like this. Because once you see the quarterback play in the position and the plays, see that kind of detail that he put in a short amount of time, I think it'll be pretty obvious for the guys watching.
You've been through this before. When rookies now go with the vets, what do you see from the rookies? Is it a wide-eyed look? What goes on?
Yeah, because I think we've all heard the term, be a pro. Well, they don't even know that yet. And so, that's our job to help educate them on all the small details that it goes. I think at the end, man, what are you looking for? Competing, of really playing fast. And so I was clear to them to say, you're not sure if you're not going fast. Are you slow or you don't know? And I said, that's okay. I'd rather you go full speed to make some mistakes. And we had a good visit yesterday with some of the rookies. Questions help, and I showed him an old clip of Brett Favre, and he was talking to a group, and Holmgren was up there, and he was talking about nickel defense. They went to dime, and he was asking Todd Detmer, what's nickel? And Todd was like, you don't know? And he's like, no. He's like, that's just to take a linebacker off to put another DB in. He goes, that's it? And so as simple as it is, when you're coming from somewhere new as a rookie, my push for them was ask the questions. We got a whole army of people here to help them and get there. And so over these weeks ahead, this is their developmental time, and we're not going to miss a step of it.
Kind of surprised that Dan Quinn used that clip from NFL Films, and you've probably seen it before. It's Brett Favre talking to Ty Detmer, who was his backup quarterback, and he's asking what a nickel defense is. That's a pretty elementary term for even a casual football fan. You know, most fans know that's an extra defensive back. You have 4 defensive backs, 2 safeties, 2 corners, passing situation. You take out a linebacker, you put in another DB. That's it. And Favre didn't know that term. Now, maybe he's trying to put his team a little bit at ease. Hey, here's a Hall of Famer. And this wasn't like Favre in his first or second year. He'd been around for a while. By the time Detmer showed up, he'd been in the league 5 or 6 years, may have won a couple of MVPs, but that's the kind of gunslinger that he was. You know, he had that arm, and he was going to fire it in there, and he didn't care, and, you know, he played hurt and all that. But I don't know if that's something you necessarily want to promote, but I think the message on that is there's no stupid questions. If you don't know something, ask, and that's what he's telling his team to do right now. As for the offensive coordinator, everybody's new here. So they've got now their 3rd different offensive coordinator in the last, 3 years, right? Yeah, you had Turner, and then you had Bieniemy last year. Now you have Kliff Kingsbury. And Kliff Kingsbury has now had his first look on the field. He looked at him at rookie minicamp over the weekend, but now seeing him perform against the veterans, this was Kingsbury on Jayden Daniels yesterday.
Everything he does is intentional. He has a plan for studying, he has a plan for practice, he has a plan for watching film. Like he knows what he wants to be and where he wants to go, and to be that young and come in there with that mindset is really encouraging.
Dan talked about mentorship, veterans to the players, coaches to the players. Who's taking on that role with Jayden?
We got a bunch of former quarterbacks, on the offense, whether it's Brian, Tavita, myself, David Blau, and then we got Marcus, who's played a lot of years and been a starter in the league for a lot of years. So I think all of us are really excited to work with him, and any pointers, tips, things we can help him grow and expedite the process, we're definitely here for it.
How do you make sure when you have all those guys who can give that input that you're not overloading with input or making sure that the message is what you need it to be?
Yeah, you just make sure they're the right guys, smart guys. We meet every day, talk through things. We're going to cover this, that, and the other, have a great plan, and go out there and put it together.
They did release Jake Fromm yesterday, so they're down to 4 quarterbacks, and that's who they will take to camp. As far as my way or the highway, some guys coach like that. That's not the way Kingsbury likes to do it. He likes to hear from his players.
I learned a quote a while back, good ideas know no rank. And so if you got a good idea, I want to hear it. It's not always going to go in, and they know that, but I'm going to listen to it. And a lot of times these guys have been other places, whether it's San Fran or Philly or somewhere where they've had a lot of success. And if there's a better way to do it, I'm all about it.
Well, one of the guys he's brought with him, and this will almost always happen. It's rare when this doesn't happen. Guy takes a job. He brings in people who know his system because he wants a player to be able to communicate to the other players, this is how we did it, and this is the success we had. Now, they didn't have great success in Arizona, but Zach Ertz has been a great tight end. He may be in position to make the Hall of Fame at the end of his career because of what he did in Philadelphia, but he is familiar with Ertz, having worked with him for a few years in Arizona, and can communicate what the offense is all about, and was asked as he has transitioned here to Washington, any differences he can see from what they ran in Arizona versus what they're running here.
There's many layers, obviously. I don't know if I want to dive into all of them, but I think the ownership that he's putting on the players, Coach Quinn is putting on the players to really mold this to our image and how we want this thing to go. It's really going to be something that the players are able to hold each other I would say accountable to. The standards are very clear. And also the energy. Every coach. It's not just one coach bringing juice. All the coaches have it. It's almost like a prereq. Every morning they have their little staff meeting and say, how much energy are we going to bring today? So it's been fun. It's been really fun to be a part of. And just the guys that they've brought in as well. Really good people first, and obviously really good football players.
You said year 12. You got a quarterback who's going into year .1.
Yeah.
Your early impressions of Jayden Daniels?
Yeah, obviously we're just getting to know each other. But right off the bat, you can tell he's an extremely talented player. The talent kind of jumps out at you when you're out on the field with him. The arm talent is there. But also he really, really cares about this thing. He wants to be as good as he can possibly be. He's working his butt off. I know he's doing a lot behind the scenes to make himself as prepared as possible, working with as many coaches as he can. And so I've been really impressed so far.
And the Kliff Kingsbury offense, what are your early impressions?
I mean, I've been in this offense before, so my impressions are that they're a little different than with some of the stuff we did in Arizona. But overall, we always want to be on the attack. He wants to put guys in situations to be successful. He's not going to ask any of us to do something that we're not comfortable with or really good at. And so he's going to maximize our potential as individuals, and then it's up to us to go make plays.
More from Zach Ertz, and all players like to talk about this. It's one of those things in sports, whether it's a motivational factor or not, everybody likes to use it. This was the old Jordan motivation. Somebody doubted me. You know, the LeBradford Smith story is classic. You know, LeBradford Smith had 37 points against the Bulls in Chicago. And Jordan told people that after the game, LeBradford Smith, who was like a rookie, maybe second year, patted him on the butt and said, "Nice game, Mike." So it was a home and home. They went to play the next game in Washington at the Capitol Center, and Jordan hung 36 in the first half. He wanted it to be 37, but missed a free throw just to make the statement, and it turned out that LeBradford Smith never did that. So sometimes these chips on the shoulder are invented, but players and coaches like to talk about it. And Zach Ertz is promoting that, we got that chip on our shoulder going into this season.
I mean, we all have a story, right? We've all been either doubted or whatever it is. Even Jayden transferred, I don't know the story in college, but he started at ASU, ended up at LSU. Even though he was a second overall pick, I'm sure he overcame some extreme adversity in his life. And so how do you muster that into positive energy instead of negative energy? And for me, obviously, this is my third team, essentially. And so I do have a chip on my shoulder. Last year didn't go the way I wanted it to. The last year in Arizona didn't go the way I wanted it to by any means. And so I can only speak for myself, obviously. But you learn all those things. They're almost scars per se, and you feel them every day, and they craft your mentality. They craft your identity. And obviously my faith is a big part of me. But also I feel like that experience has changed my outlook, and I'm extremely excited for this year.
Well, Ertz was released last year by Arizona. He wound up catching on with Detroit and would have played in the Super Bowl had they made it. But he didn't play a game. He was getting himself ready to play. How much he's got left in the tank, who knows? But, veteran tight end, those are valuable pieces. And for an offensive coordinator who's got familiarity with him, who can help, especially with a young quarterback looking for checkdowns, that's what you want. You want a guy who is going to be in the right spot, and I think that's going to be the big value of Ertz coming up. Now, they've got, another month of these, they're called voluntary workouts, but everybody showed up yesterday. It's a buy-in. And there's going to be the mandatory minicamp, which will be June 11th, and usually that's it. Like they break after that, and they don't get back until late July. So the only month that the NFL doesn't own is July. They certainly own this one because tonight, the revealing of the schedule. All right, coming up, announcement, plus Orioles preview. We will have Danny Kalum, who has got an incredible story. You talk about perseverance. We'll get to that and a whole lot more in Orioles preview. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. Later this hour, Orioles preview. Danny Kalum will join us with an unbelievable story of perseverance. I mean, you talk about a guy who's had setbacks with injuries and other issues in his life, and he has plowed ahead to become a very effective left-handed reliever for the Orioles. Birds closing out their series this afternoon against Toronto after a rainout last night. We'll get to that, a little more on the NBA playoffs, and a whole lot more. But we are coming up on our 5th anniversary as a radio station. We started in the summer of 2019 and persevered through the pandemic. Very proud of that, and we keep rolling along. We are your home for Baltimore Ravens football, Baltimore Orioles baseball, and now we are adding to our play-by-play roster with more. And with the announcement on that, here is the Washington Spirit CEO, Kim Stone. Good morning, Kim.
Hi, good morning, Andy, and congratulations on your upcoming anniversary.
Yeah, I imagine we'll have a parade, but I haven't heard any details about that. But tell us what's going to be going on between ESPN 630 and the Washington Spirit.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and for your listeners. This for us is a historic partnership. This is our Washington Spirit's first ever radio partnership, and it's the first women's pro team ESPN is hosting as a broadcast partner. So we are thrilled about this. This is just another step in our process of getting our reach and our awareness out. You know, as the saying goes, everyone listens to women's sports these days. You're seeing just a real uptick in this movement, and we're just really proud to be partnering with a great radio station in the local market to help us just spread the awareness and get our games a broader reach. You know, our owner, Michelle Kang, has been committed to investing in this club and making it a preeminent sports organization. So this partnership is just another step in that direction. And we're really thrilled about the quality of the broadcast team, along with the renowned brand we have. You know, we've got Bram Weinstein, Mike Minnick, and Gabby Vincent joining us. So I think our fans are going to hear from some experts. They're going to enjoy the quality broadcast. And we're just really excited to be partnering with you all and making a difference for our fans in the area.
Yeah, no question. Bram Weinstein, one of 32 with the great job of broadcasting an NFL team. He has been the voice of the Washington football team, the last 2 years, the Washington Commanders, and he will be the primary play-by-play voice. Tell us a little bit about Mike Minnick and Gabby Vincent.
Yes, happy to. So Mike Minnick has been one of the leading NWSL and Spirit historians in the industry. His broadcast experience at the pro and college level as well. So we're really happy to have him. And then Gabby Vincent is a former player and specifically a former Spirit player who had a decorated college career. So this is her first stint into the broadcast booth. And I give a lot of credit to Bram in particular. He helped us make sure that we were picking great talent that he wants to, grow and help Gabby become one of the best in the industry. I mean, there's nothing better than having a professional and an expert such as Bram, stepping up saying, I want to do this, and then I want to help grow the game, and then I want to help grow other people to come into and be part of this game. So really excited about that pairing and what it's going to mean. And this all kicks off with 13 broadcasts that we'll have throughout the remainder of the 2024 season. And in addition to the play-by-play and the broadcast, we'll also have a podcast called a Spirit Spotlight, and that is going to be run every 2 episodes a week, including a post-game podcast breaking down the games. And the first official episode will be published this Friday. So we're starting immediately, which we're super excited about. So we're excited about the broadcast, the extra podcast and weekly show that's going to be handled, and the talent. So really, Andy, thank you to you and the ESPN team for understanding and seeing the value and really partnering with us to take this to the next level.
Well, I had nothing to do with it except for a hearty round of applause for what you all put together. And Bram is a girl dad as well, so he understands this. And as Kim said, first game will be on Saturday as they take on Angel City at 7:30, and we'll be streaming 13 of the matches and the podcast, which will be there as well. And I just wonder about, I know it's a different sport, but it just seems that women's athletics has really gotten a huge rocket booster from Caitlin Clark and what she did for women's basketball in college, and she made her pro debut last night. Have you felt any carryover from that into women's soccer?
Oh, yes. I mean, for sure. I think women's soccer and the WNBA sort of have both been ascending and leading this champion or this focus on women's college sports. For example, the U.S. women's national team, which will be playing in the Olympics this summer, they had a friendly game last month in Atlanta and drew 52,000 people. So it goes hand in hand that women's soccer and the WNBA have enjoyed great support, and WNBA behind the celebrity status of Caitlin Clark. I think there's a halo effect that happens on all of women's sports, and you see it also with the Women's Professional Hockey League setting attendance records throughout its first year as well. So again, as I mentioned, this, as the saying goes, everyone watches sports, and that's what we need. We need people to continue to listen, to watch, and to follow, and specifically to come out to our games at Audi Field. It's a great experience. There you get to see a lot of great action. Trinity Rodman, who is on our team, is a member of the U.S. women's national team, so it is highly likely that she'll be selected for the Olympic team this summer that'll be playing in Paris. So there's a lot of reasons to watch, whether it's Caitlin Clark, Trinity Rodman, the upcoming Paris Olympics. There's a lot of great action and talent. And I think I'd actually worked in the WNBA in the early 2000s. And I think the difference these days is the quality of the athletes. Not that they weren't great back then. It's just they have all continued to raise their games. So the quality of the games is just outstanding. And you see it in Caitlin and what she can do. So just thrilled. It's the old rising tide lifts all boats. And we're happy to be one of those boats.
Yeah, well, she even got them charter flights in the league, so there's been a huge improvement from obviously when you were in. But we're really happy about this, and again, it kicks off this weekend as the first game will be broadcast. And happy to have you as a partner, and good to talk to you, Kim.
Yes, Andy, and listen, I want to give you a personal invite to bring yourself and some of your friends out, and let's have a good time at Audi Field coming up.
Very good. I'll try to. I can't get to this game, but I'll try to get to a couple of games the rest of the way, and look forward to talking to you in person.
Likewise. Thanks for the opportunity, and go Spirit.
All right. Thanks, Kim. That's Kim Stone, who is the Washington Spirit CEO. And again, we're hooking up. We're going to do 13 games. Bram Weinstein is going to broadcast them with Gabby Vincent and Mike Minnick. And it all gets started on Saturday. And we're looking forward to that. Rex Minturn with me in the studio today. And I just wonder how you feel about the schedule release. Are you as excited about the schedule release as everybody seems to be for the NFL?
I'm looking forward to it.
Right?
We talked about it last week. Start planning maybe an away game trip.
There's been a lot of leaks. There's not going to be any international games for them. They've already announced all those. There's nothing that is going to happen, I guess, with them in the primetime first weekend, though. I guess we don't know the Sunday night game yet, right? I don't think we do. No, we don't know the Sunday night game first weekend. Just the Monday.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not Sunday yet. So I saw something where you might put the Giants against them. That might be interesting for week one. And I also saw this. I don't know, where this is coming from or how firm it is, but they would send Washington back to Dallas on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and it's almost a regular game now. It's almost, I would bet, of the last 10 years. Well, let's see. Go back to Robert Griffin III's game, which was 2012. So this would be 12 years. But they played there 6 times, right?
That many?
I bet they have. It's like they had last year. Didn't they have it 2 years before that?
One with they lost one with Kirk.
Yeah.
They had a Alex Smith one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They've had quite a few of them. So, right. Alex Smith playing. That was the comeback year, right? Not the year he got hurt. So that was 2020. So we're going to find out more about that. Meantime, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was on Rich Eisen's show yesterday, and in this new ownership, we haven't really seen it yet, but who are going to be the celebrity sideline guys for them? Like you had the Tom Cruise, Dan Snyder movie project partnership. I don't know how well that worked out, but at one point when Snyder owned Six Flags, Cruise brought his family in and they shut down Six Flags for a day so Snyder's family and the Cruise family could all ride the rides without interruption from anybody else. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been to practices before. And he was on yesterday on the Rich Eisen show, and he explained where his fandom started and also listen to what he says about Joe Gibbs. This, again, Dale Earnhardt yesterday.
I became a fan in 81, 82, and the very first game I watched, they beat Miami in the Super Bowl, and just a fantastic game. Everybody remembers that epic run for Riggins down the sideline to score a touchdown. But there wasn't a team in North Carolina where I grew up. And my mother had moved to Norfolk after my father and her separated. She moved to Norfolk. So I'd go up to Chesapeake Bay and around that area, and there's Washington fans everywhere and the emblem. And so she was buying me jerseys and helmets as a kid. Every Christmas, I was expecting a new jersey or a helmet or shoulder pads, the whole kit. And I'd get all that stuff and play in the yard with my buddies. And I just was a fan ever since. So I'm too invested now to change, and no matter what they call the team, I'm going to be a fan from here on out.
You must have fanboyed Gibbs like crazy when he showed up on the circuit, right, Dale? Right?
Yes, I was talking about that like 15 minutes ago.
No kidding.
I remember where I was standing when I first saw him. It was like 1994 in Atlanta, Georgia, the last race of the year. The race is over. Everybody's kind of meandering about trying to leave the racetrack, and I see him walking through the garage. I must have been, just 19, 20 years old, and I literally couldn't. I was speechless. I couldn't even holler out his name. I was like, there he goes. I mean, this guy, as a fan of Washington, this guy was like royalty walking across the garage. I could not believe that he was in our world.
Right.
I couldn't believe it.
Well,
And, then he would become an incredible owner in NASCAR and a championship winning owner. But that's the guy I remember right there. And when I saw him walking across that garage that day, I felt like a little boy, but I was a little bit older than that. Man, it was an incredible moment. It gives me chills just thinking about it.
It's interesting because Dale Earnhardt, in many ways, is he's a bigger deal in NASCAR than Joe Gibbs. Joe Gibbs is a big deal, and he's won the Daytona 500 a couple of times, and he's a very successful owner. But in that world, Dale Earnhardt is a bigger deal. And so, you kind of laugh at that a little bit. Now, in the football world, obviously, there's a big difference. And, boy, talk about coming in the door at the right time. Earnhardt's first game was that Super Bowl where Riggins had the run against the Dolphins. So, yeah, the next 10 years were Camelot years, between that game in January of 1983 and January of 1992 when they won their third Super Bowl. I mean, look at what happened. They went to, 4 Super Bowls in that period of time. They played in 5 NFC championship games. They missed the playoffs twice. I know they missed in, they missed in 85, and they missed in 90, and maybe 89 as well. But not 88, I guess they missed. So they missed a few times. But you can't get your entree into the team any better than that. But just thinking about how Dale Earnhardt looks at Joe Gibbs, it reminded me of this, that when Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon had Mike Krzyzewski on, and Tony said, I knew Mike back when he was coaching at Army. I've known him a long time, long before he had all that success at Duke. And Krzyzewski said, my players are amazed when I tell them I know you. And there's still like this awe factor that these guys have. They were talking about it on the air, I think, about when Tony met Cal Ripken at a golf event, and Cal came up to him. So it's just interesting where celebrities of various places meet up and how they view each other. And here's Dale Earnhardt, one of the biggest names in the history of NASCAR racing, and looking at Joe Gibbs in a godlike way, not necessarily for what he did in racing, but for what he did in football. Last thing, and this is where I am in 100% agreement. I think I've said this a number of times. This is Dale Earnhardt with Rich Eisen on the team name.
I think they should change it back to the football team. The Washington football team is a really cool name. Of course, anytime you change the name, and when they changed the name to the football team, we all had the same reaction. Man, this is weird. This is odd. I don't like it. But actually, by the end of the first season as the football team, we were different. It was good. We liked it. I think most people wrap their brains around it. We're like, I kind of like this. I don't really, it set us apart in the whole NFL's industry with that type of a name. And I don't feel that way at the end of season 1 around the Commanders. Will I in a few years? Maybe it'll sort of become normal and feel normalized to me. But that Washington football team name was kind of cool, and you had a blank slate with jerseys and everything there, and that would be kind of neat, I think, to go back to.
I'm in agreement with that, with a twist. Rex, see what you think about this idea. What if they keep the name Commanders, but in promotional material, references and various things? What if they tell Bram that during the game you should reference them as the Washington football team? Just kind of keep both and see if Commanders eventually just goes away. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the uniform. Like, you're not the team that I'm seeing is not the team that I.
Yeah. You want the classic look that they had during the Gibbs years.
Yes.
Yeah. I would be okay with that too. The helmet could, instead of the Indian head on the side, could just have the same logo they have now. And there's no C there. It's a W, which I think was I don't want to give too much credit to the regime of Dan Snyder, but at least they came up with that. I'm glad that it's not a C logo, it's a W, so that would fit. And I probably told this story before, but Charlie Brotman told me this, the longtime PR maven in this area, and he worked for the old Washington Senators. That's the team that went to Minnesota in 1960. They were replaced by the expansion Senators. But the baseball team was originated, I think, in 1901. And there was no American League. There was no National League. It was the professional team that played in Washington. And they were known as the Nationals. Believe it or not, they were the Nationals. And the American League came in 1903, and Washington went to the American League. And I guess there was a feeling, they didn't have licensing and things that like they have now, but I think there was a feeling, well, we can't call a team that's in the American League the Nationals. So they came up with Senators, but they never really did away with Nationals. And even when I was rooting for the expansion Senators in the 1960s and early 70s, they would sometimes be referred to as the Nats. And if you look at old clippings of stories from the days of the original Senators before they went to Minnesota, they were referred to in like a second reference in a story as the Nationals or the Nats. And that kind of stuck. So in 1954, they had to put out a yearbook. Teams put out yearbooks every year. And they were using both names. Like they were sort of interchangeable at that time. It's before my time. I wasn't even born yet. But at that time, Nationals and Senators were interchangeable. And they had to design a cover for the yearbook. At the time, Zang Arbach, Red Arbach's brother, was working for the team as an artist. And they went to him and they said, what do we do here? You know, we've got two names. And Zhang said, well, look, it's easier for me to draw a sketch of a senator than it is a national. I mean, what's a national? So why don't I just draw up a senator? And so that's what he did. He had, you know, at that time they wore big hats and vests and suits. I don't know, but they had some logo with senators on it. And so that's how they became the Senators. So my feeling is, let's just not drop Commanders. You know, just whatever they have to be referred to as the Commanders, you refer to them as that. But in your marketing, in all the T-shirts that you put out, all the advertising that you do, you call it the Washington Football Team, and just, you know, kind of phase out Commanders. Just see, or because right now there is no clamor of the fan base to keep it. You know, I haven't heard anybody say, as they've discussed changing the name. Have you talked to anybody who says, hey, I really like this name, I think I can get used to it?
I've seen some kooks on Twitter for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, but also what you heard when there was pressure on Snyder to change the name years ago, and he dug in his heels and said to USA Today, I will never change the name, and you can put that in all caps. They said, well, he's stupid because if he changes the name, he'll make millions and millions of dollars in new merchandise. They're not selling that stuff. People aren't buying it. You know, it's not true the team stinks or has stunk. That's got a lot to do with it. But I wonder if even if they get good, do people want that stuff? I don't.
No. And my only thing with your suggestion is like if you see it on national TV and they show the standings, seeing Commanders up there is still just so brutal.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I didn't get that feel with Washington Football Team. No. It was awkward. I mean, when you're writing scripts for updates and things like that, you know, saying Washington Football Team, but also it makes them stand out. The Cleveland Browns don't have a logo on their helmet. They're the only team that doesn't. They're different. The Steelers have it only on one side. You know, it make them stand out, and it also addresses the history of the team, that you really can never replace Redskins. You can't go back to Redskins. And I think as Dan Quinn explained yesterday on what he basically learned by trying to link the past to the present, and if you have any doubt, in fact, find that there. See where it says T-shirt for Quinn. Let me play this again while I'm babbling about this. Okay, this is Dan Quinn asked about the shirt that launched 1,000 tweets over the weekend, the W logo with the feathers hanging off the left side, and what the plan was on that.
Dan, over the weekend, you wore a T-shirt to your availability that garnered some attention. I wonder if you could walk through what that was.
Sure, no sweat at all. And I think one of the parts of me, taking this job, I was excited to bridge, the past and the present, and what a cool, privilege that is to do. And I also recognized there's a lot of layers to that. So it was a great lesson for me. And what I really hate is that any attention that would have been taken away from these rookies and like this awesome crew. So no one wants to do that, but great lesson.
Any feedback with the shirt from, I heard a lot of former players really liked that you wore the shirt. Did you get any feedback from folks?
Nope.
Nope. Yeah, he doesn't usually answer questions like that. The team would not comment on it. But, yeah, it was a learning thing that he tried to do it, didn't work. But I think Dale Earnhardt is on to something very smart. I agree with that, and I'd like to see that come back. One other quick thing before we get to Orioles preview. Tom Brady, who was first patting himself on the back, and who wouldn't, collecting $25 million to hear people rip his ex-wife for cheating on him, now has regrets about the roast that took place. He was on the Pivot podcast, which is hosted in part by Ryan Clark, and he says he has some regrets after some jokes, quote, affected my kids. He has 2 kids with Gisele Bundchen, son Benjamin, 14, daughter Vivian, 11. He's also the father of a 16-year-old. From his relationship with Bridget Moynihan, he said, I love when the jokes were about me. I thought they were so fun. I didn't like the way they affected my kids. It's the hardest part about like the bittersweet aspect of when you do something that you think is one way and then all of a sudden you realize I wouldn't do that again because of the way it affected actually the people that I care about most in the world. Asked if he would do another roast, he said no, and he said he was pretty much talked into it by Jeff Ross, the comedian who's a friend and hosted it. He said, but he says you don't see the full picture all the time. Sometimes you're naive. You don't know. Let me be naive for $25 million for a 3-hour roast. He said the silver lining is the roast provided a good lesson for me as a parent. It makes you in some ways a better parent going through it. I'm going to be a better parent as I go forward because of it. At the same time, I'm happy everyone who was there had a lot of fun. If we're not laughing about things, we're crying. We should have more fun. What do we love? What are we laughing about in the locker room? Let's do more of that and love each other and celebrate other people's success. So there's that. But all in all, I guess it was a home run for Netflix. It was well received. Look, if you were to produce a 3-hour movie for Netflix, it would cost you $25 million. I don't know what the roasters got paid. Maybe they did it just for the publicity. But Brady himself, and he produced it, collected $25 million for that roast. And got some regrets about the kids, but I think they're at an age now. One of them is a teenager. The daughter's pretty close. I think they'll get an understanding of it. And pretty soon they'll get an understanding of how much $25 million is as well. All right, coming up, we got Orioles preview. Danny Kalum. And if you're not familiar with his story, I don't know if we'll have time to go through all of it, but the ups and downs that he's had in his career, absolutely remarkable. Stay with us. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.